Welcome to Small Arm Solutions. Today we're going to be talking about a really neat pistol, the Sig Sauer model P229. Before we get too much into the pistol itself, we want to talk a little bit about the caliber itself. The 40 S&W came out in 1990. It was a joint venture between Smith & Wesson and Winchester. It was based off of the FBI's 10mm short. The FBI at one point was looking at the model 1076, I believe, Smith & Wesson pistol in 10mm. They found out very quickly that the pistol had too much recoil and was a little too potent for their agents. So they downloaded the cartridge to what they call the 10mm short, which eventually led to be the 40 S&W. Now the 40 S&W is a 180 grain bullet at probably around 1,050 feet a foot a second. Oddly enough, it was a joint venture between Smith & Wesson and Winchester, but the first gun to come out actually was Glock, with the Glock Model 22. And then came out the Smith & Wesson 4006. One of the issues with those two guns was they were basically 9mm pistols that were designed as a 9mm pistol that were slightly modified to accept the 40 S&W. The 40 S&W is a significantly more potent cartridge. You have more chamber pressure. It causes much more strain on the pistol itself. So those pistols were not designed specifically for that cartridge. They were modified. The first two pistols that were actually designed around the 40 S&W cartridge were, first was the Sig Sauer model P229, and then along with that was the HK USP 40. These two were the first pistols that were designed specifically for the new potent 40 S&W cartridge. So what we're going to start talking about here is the Sig model P229. The P229 in size is identical to that of the original Sig 228. The Sig pistols have seen a lot of experience through military and law enforcement. The P226 was actually designed during the XM9 trials to compete, and it competed and basically tied with the Beretta M9. What pushed the Beretta over the limit was over the edge, which got adopted was slightly better price on magazines and spare parts packages. However, the C226 has gone on to be the Navy SEALs weapon of choice, as well as numerous law enforcement contracts as well. The biggest problem with the Sig pistols was it was never its quality; it was always the cost. It was beyond the cost of many law enforcement agencies who would have liked to have adopted it, but they just couldn't afford them. Some of the hallmarks of the Sig pistol were the fact that you have a decocker only. You do not have a manual safety, so if the pistol is cocked, you push down. So we're going to go talk about the P228 just a little bit. The 228 was a 9mm cartridge, 9mm by 19 NATO. The original P228, after the loss of the M9 contract, was awarded the M11 contract, which was for the compact 9mm pistol. Now, the original 228 was manufactured from a sheet metal of stamped metal, and then it actually had a breech block that was pinned in place. Well, now we're going to move up to 1990 or so when the 40 S&W came out. Sig in Exeter, New Hampshire, just started producing components. And to deal with the higher pressures caused by the 40 S&W and 357 Sig eventually, they needed to design a much stronger slide. So when they designed the 229 and 40 S&W, they switched from the stamped sheet metal slide to a one-piece stainless steel slide. Now, that one-piece stainless steel slide was manufactured right in Exeter, New Hampshire. It came in the black finish, it came in the stainless steel finish, it came in several different ones. The nice thing about this was it was much more stronger, much more durable, corrosion resistant. So the first model was actually the 40 S&W. Within a year or so of the release of the P229 and 40 S&W, it was then released in 9mm. Basically what they did was they took the slide, the same slide, and they machined a lot of material out of it to lighten it up, so for it to function properly with the 9mm cartridge. Obviously changed the breech face and the barrel. So in essence what that did was that replaced the P228. And then probably around 1994, Sig had a joint effort with Federal Cartridge Company, and they designed the 357 Sig. The 357 Sig was basically a necked down 40 S&W cartridge case which took a 9mm projectile And this really did get you up around 37 Magnum pressures, firing a 125 grain projectile. You're looking at over 1,450 foot a second. So you definitely got up there in in velocity. Another nice thing about it was it was a bottleneck, which basically makes the 3.7 Sig pistol completely reliable. There's not too many ways you're actually going to achieve any kind of a malfunction with it due to its shape. The cartridge started off pretty slow due to the fact that it was proprietary to Sig, and at the time only Federal was making ammunition for it. But as time would go on for both the 40 and the 37 Sig, they would gain in popularity. The 40 S&W really gained popularity. It was the most popular caliber in law enforcement. It was, whether it would be a Sig pistol or a Glock pistol or whatever, Smith & Wesson pistol. It took over law enforcement in the 90s right through 2000, 2010. Right now we're sort of seeing a trend of it going back to 45, and we're also seeing a trend of it going back to 9mm, which mostly has to do with the improvements in ammunition. With the proper ammunition these days, a 9mm can perform just as well as some of these larger calibers. So another one of the really neat things about the 357 Sig was if you were to have this pistol, the P229 and 40 S&W, all you would have to do is change out the barrel. You use, because it's based on a 40 S&W cartridge case, it uses the exact same slide, the exact same magazine. All you're actually changing out is the barrel itself. So with one pistol here, you actually can have two different calibers, 40 S&W and then 357 Sig. We're going to go a little bit more over the pistol here. The cartridges, nowadays, both are very easily purchased and made by many manufacturers. The 357 Sig actually is in use by the U.S. Secret Service. The P229 pistol has been in use by many federal agencies. Unfortunately, many of them are switching over to Glock. I think it's probably because of cost. You can never take away any of the quality issues from Sig. They are incredibly well-made pistols. They just have that very large price tag. The Sigs are offered in some different configurations as well. This particular one here is the standard double single, which you have your first pull is the long drawn double action. Pistol will fire, comes back, forward. Now you're in a single action mode. They're also in double action only, like a double action only revolver. And they also have their DAK system, I believe it's called DAK, which is basically a double action. They claim double action, but in my experience, I would more like to call this more of a single action. Basically, what it is, it's a double action that you pull back very easily until the hammer will reach its cock position, and then you would fire. Then when the slide would come back, depending on how far you let the trigger up, it would remain cocked again. Basically, what that does is it allows you to have the exact same trigger pull every time. Unlike this pistol here, where you have your first trigger pull is going to be your long drawn heavy pull, and then your second shot is going to go to the lighter single action pull. The DAK will give you the exact same trigger pull from start to finish, which is something that I think that a lot of people are liking about Glock pistols and so forth. And Smith & Wesson M&Ps is having that consistent trigger pull from your first shot to your last shot. You're a lot less likely to pull on the heavy double action pull and you shoot low, or then immediately going to a single action and then shooting high. So there definitely is some merit to having the same trigger pull at any time. We're going to go over this pistol a little bit more closely. The P229 that you see here, this is actually one of the earlier variations. The newer ones actually have the 1913 rail on the front here. This pistol that I borrowed here actually is one of the more original ones. I actually don't like the original a little bit better. I'm not really putting flashlights on mine, but any kind of an enhancement is always considered an improvement. As you can see, we have a one-piece stainless steel slide. This has got the black finish on it. This is Sig standard pistol grip panels right here, Sig Sauer. If you look over to the side, you have your disassembling latch, your decocker, your magazine release, and your slide stop. Now on the entire P220, P225, P226, 229, 228, all the pistols follow the same pattern with the decocker. As you can see, you cock the hammer back. You can also see as you pull down, the hammer does not actually strike the firing pin. Drop, and it moves forward. It never goes all the way forward. You also have your slide lock. Of course, the pistol does lock open on its last shot, and we're going to show you how to take it apart. Once you make sure the pistol is clear, you have it in the locked position. Move the something latch down, pull back on the slide, move forward, comes right off the frame. Now, if you notice, this actually has a braided recoil spring. Now, some people like to say, well, it's just because of how high quality the SIG pistols are. Actually, that's not the case. You sort of have to. Within the frame itself, you have a very, very short compartment where the recoil spring can actually function. So in order to keep the spring from taking a set and having to replace it after every 500 or 1,000 rounds, you end up having to go with this braided spring that actually gives it the strength when you're restricted on your spring stack in the inside of the frame here. Now, depending on the caliber of the pistol, SIGs can have 2, 3. I believe this is actually a 5 braid. Yes, it is. It's a 5, 2, 4, 5. This is 5 springs. Now, you look inside of the slide here. You can see right here we have the firing pin block, which again is a physical block that keeps the firing pin in place until the trigger is pulled. When the trigger is pulled, you can see this little arm right here, which actually raises. What that does is it pushes up on the firing pin block, disengages the firing pin safety, and allows the firing pin to move forward once the hammer strikes. But as you see, what you expect from SIG is just absolutely flawless machining. You can take a look in there. You can see the extractor in there. There's just no machining marks in here whatsoever. And again, you're paying for that. You know, when you pay that kind of a price tag, you don't want it to come out looking like it came out of some high school machine shop. You want it to look nice. As you can see here, we have both barrels. We have 40 S&W and 327 SIG. So say I want to convert this pistol over to 327 SIG. All I'm going to do is take that barrel, drop that in place, insert my recoil spring, slide it over, lock the slide back, flip up. Now I'm ready to go. Now I'm in 357 SIG. And it's really nice being able to have this kind of interchangeability, because there are certainly times where 327 SIG may be a little bit better than the 40 S&W. I can definitely tell, and you'll tell from the videos, when you're firing a 327 SIG, you know you've got something in your hands. Absolutely. You know, this barrel is about 3.9 inches in length, so it's a compact. This is basically SIG's compact pistol. It's not ultra compact. This is the one size down from the full size. You know, as of now, the 228 is no longer available. SIG does have a M11A1. Even though the M11 was originally a model P228, the M11A1 uses the new 229 slide. There's no the old slides are no longer made. The ones with the rolled sheet metal. All of them are made, and right here in the United States as well. These slides are mostly manufactured right here in the U.S. in Exeter, New Hampshire. The frames are mostly made in Germany. That are going to come into the country, and of course SIG offers both night sights and standard sights, so you know whatever you would want. You know, if as far as quality pistols, you know, SIG is always up there at the top. You know, and you've heard me say it. I'm going to say it again. Their biggest problem has always been the price. So the 229 has been made available in both all 3 calibers: 9x19, 40 S&W, and .357 SIG. The 357 SIG has seen some additional popularity other than just SIG pistols. You saw H&K made one of them in one of their USP compact models. You've also seen Glock manufactures them as well. And pretty much any 40 caliber pistol out there, most of them you can buy spare barrels that will fire that caliber with no problem. And right now, ammunition for 357 SIG and 40 S&W is about comparable. If you're looking for a completely reliable, very accurate pistol, and you have the money in your wallet, you know, SIG is always one of your top options. It's been the choice of law enforcement and military all over the world. Right up until recently, the SIG 226 was the preferred weapon of the Navy SEALs. Just recently, they are replacing those with a Glock 19. I think again a lot of that probably has to do with cost. You know, there is also an issue of weight savings you do have with a Glock, but there's certainly a cost. You could probably buy 2 of the Glock 19s for what you pay for one of the 226s. These pistols here, they're manufactured for the SEALs, had chrome-plated barrels similar to any mil-spec U.S. military pistol. You can have finishes on them that are also impervious to the elements. You're going to see in the video, the difference between the recoil between the 357 SIG as well as the 40 S&W. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take this pistol to the range, and we're going to put a few rounds through it, and we're going to try both the 40 caliber as well as the 357 SIG. The ammunition that was used in the 40 S&W were both manufactured by Sig Sauer. This actually happens to be their new tactical ammunition. It's called the Sig V Crown. It is a hollow point. If you look at the hollow point, it actually has a lot of characteristics of the original PMC Starfire. And it definitely has some improvements that were made to it as well. But also Sig has their own target ammunition as well. So both the ammunition for the 40 caliber were both Sig. Unfortunately, at the time I did this video, I didn't have access to any of the Sig 357 Sig ammunition, so I had to use a box of Remington UMC, and I did have a box of 357 Sig in the Sig V Crown. Ammunition is accurate, it's flawless. The accuracy in the video could have been a little bit better. I'm still recovering here from having a broken back, so my aim wasn't as good as it normally is. But they still all, remain where they needed to be in the center of the target. So again, we'll take it to the range and we'll see how it does.
The Sig P229 was originally designed as a 40 S&W caliber pistol. Unlike the original guns that were in 40 caliber, the original Glock and Smith & Wesson, for instance, those were basically 9mm pistols that were just modified to fire 40 caliber. However, the receivers in the slides, they really weren't up to the task of handling the new caliber. The first two pistols to actually be designed around the 40 S&W caliber was the Sig P229 and the HK USP. This is an original P229. This is pre-1913 rail on the top. Right now it is chambered in its original 40 S&W. We're actually going to fire some 40 S&W ammunition, and we're going to convert it over to 357 SIG, which is extremely simple. The ammunition that was provided actually was provided by Sig. This is Sig's own line of ammunition, Elite Performance ammunition. This is a 180 grain full metal jacket. Then we're also going to take a look at some of their Elite Performance ammunition too, which is also a 165 grain jacketed hollow point. This ammunition is very similar to the original PMC Starfire. It's a very, very well designed cartridge. Converting the P229 from 40 caliber to 357 SIG is as simple as swapping out the barrel. The only thing that you have to actually swap out is just the barrel. You're using the same slide, the same frame, the same recoil spring. The 357 SIG is merely a 40 S&W caliber cartridge case that is actually necked down to fire a 9mm projectile. So basically for disassembly, hold down on the lever, let the slide come off, push in the recoil spring, and we're going to lift out the barrel. Now we're going to replace it with 357 SIG. Reinsert the recoil spring. Insert it back on the frame. Now we're converted over 357 SIG. Anytime that you're converting a pistol like this on the range, it's very important to keep your ammunition separate, because you definitely don't want to try to fire a 357 SIG in a 40 S&W caliber chamber. So just for safety, you only want to have the ammunition that you're using for that particular pistol out at any given time. The first ammunition that we're going to take a look at is the Sig Elite. This is what is it actually? This is a 125 grain V-Crown, muzzle velocity about 1356, which is definitely on par with the 357 Magnum. The one thing about this caliber that you know is it's got some bite to it. When you're firing it, you know you've got something in your hands. So the first magazine we're going to try is the Elite Performance ammunition. Now the other ammunition is actually Remington UMC. Unfortunately, I just didn't have access to any of the 357 SIG manufactured by Sig. I failed to have them send that to me. But we're going to practice with some of the Remington UMC and then switch over to the V-Crown. Definitely has some kick behind it. Try the V-Crown. The groups aren't as tight as I would like them to be, but I think unfortunately my back has a little bit to do with my ability to keep really steady. But those groups are all where they need to be. They're right in where they need to be. A little bit to the left. A little adjustment from the rear side will take care of that. Like any SIG pistol, this thing runs absolutely flawless. We probably fired about I'd say about 150 rounds out here today. Swapped calibers out, and the thing shot reliable, accurate as can be. It's always been a little bit pricey. That's always been SIG's biggest issue, has been their price. This model right here in 357 SIG, this is actually the issue gun for the U.S. Secret Service in this caliber. The caliber is a lot more available now, and a lot more reasonable costs. And you definitely know you got something in your hands.